You're muted.
All right, I'm unmuted.
Now you're unmuted.
How you doing?
Good. How are you?
Good, thank you. How was your week?
Good. You're frozen. Now,
Let's see. Now I'm unfrozen. Yes,
Yeah.
I can see me moving.
yes, you're moving now. Yep. Good. How was your weekend?
Pretty good. Gabrielle was over yesterday. And everything's good. We had I think I told you that we constantly were having problems with the house that we bought her.
Yeah.
Mention that?
Uh-huh. So now what's wrong?
It's ugly head in the plumbing.
Oh boy.
We figure at some point, everything's
Yeah.
going to be fixed.
Right. I guess if you have it long.
Yeah, it's a process of elimination. But otherwise, yeah, we're doing good. It was a great date. Did you get out today?
Yeah. Yeah. It was actually nicer this morning than this afternoon got a little muggy, but
Yeah,
yesterday was wonderful.
yeah, it was.
Good.
So what's new at the shul?
Not much. Just starting to plan for Hanukkah and who knows? I think we're talking about reopening at some point in the spring, so I'm hoping January. We'll see.
Spring.
Well, January's before spring,
Yeah,
so
yeah. I'd love to. I mean, I think everybody wants to see that.
yes. Just depends on the numbers in Houston at that point.
Yeah, yeah.
I think the medical advisory committee is meeting every week, and we'll see what they have to say.
Yeah.
So
Well, it's only the best advice and the best. Who knows what's really going to end up happening?
nobody knows. Nobody knows what the right answer is, the wrong answer. None of
Yeah.
us know.
What are you doing or not doing for Thanksgiving?
I am probably going to be at my daughter's house. We've sort of been in a pod, and so I think she said she was making Thanksgiving, and I said I'll be glad to bring whatever you want, and I'll come.
How many people?
There are 4 of them and me, so
So that's 5. Yeah.
yeah. I think as long as it's under 10, we're supposed to be okay.
Yeah. Yeah. 5 sounds doable.
And you?
We're trying to make a decision on what to do.
Right.
So we haven't, finished making that decision yet.
Right. Well, you've got some time.
Yeah. It would be 7 at our house.
Okay.
And that's kind of getting to the upper end of,
Yeah. If they've all been, being careful and staying home and not interacting with other people, then it's probably okay. But again, your guess is as good as mine.
yeah, exactly. So is that Hannah in there?
She's muted.
Okay.
I'm unmuted. Hi. Yes, it is I.
Hi, Hannah.
Hello, everyone.
How are you, Hannah?
I have learned to cope. I hit a wall at one point, and that happened when my girlfriend passed away and we couldn't go to her funeral. And it was like everyone on the cemetery is dead. Nobody had the virus. We all know how to social distance. We're
Yeah.
outside. We're wearing masks. So, but I had a friend and we walked and talked. And after that, it was like, you just become more accepting and go with the flow. But yeah, it's been very unusual. I mean, going to an outside funeral, hello.
Yeah, it's very hard.
It is. It is. I mean, this is someone who we've had a relationship for over 30 years. And so we're coping. We're coping.
Yeah.
We have grandchildren who are seniors in high school. They're disliking it intensely. I mean, it's just been unprecedented what we're going through and the restrictions and the requirements. But you know what? Go outside. The yard people never ever stopped working. The construction people never ever stopped working.
Right.
The home improvement people never stopped working. Hello.
Right. Right.
Where is everybody?
They were late last week.
This is like what number? This is like the third event going on, one or two more.
Today?
Yes. They started at 10 o'clock with, or 11 o'clock, I'm sorry, Cantor Levine, and then Ellie did Brish Shalom Sisterhood, the cooking demo. Now you, Ron, Howard, Aaron, and then we have at 6:15 the rabbi's regular evening service, and then at 8 o'clock we have Vicky.
How's Vicky's class going?
Beautifully. Oh my goodness. She had, this will be her second one. She had a speaker, her first one, which was totally dynamic speaker and phenomenal information. The interesting part I thought was that our hostess spoke too long and too much and left little to almost no time for our guest speaker.
Really?
Really. It was good.
That is Marcia and Al.
Hey, Marcia.
You're muted.
Oh, okay. Hi, Aaron.
Hi, Marcia. You can only see the top of your forehead. There you go.
There you
Okay.
go.
Well, how's life, Aaron? I haven't seen you in a long time.
Yeah, really. Life is,
Interesting.
yeah. Have you guys voted yet?
Oh, yeah, we voted the first week it was possible. It felt good. What about you?
Yeah, we voted the third day of
Same here.
early voting.
Yeah, that's exactly what we did. Did you vote in person?
Yeah.
We did too.
Hi, Aaron.
Didn't want to
Hey,
leave
Al,
any,
how you doing?
didn't want to leave anything to chance.
No, nothing to chance this year.
God.
Don't do it. Don't do it, Aaron. Don't leave anything to chance.
No. That's what I just said. I'm not. No, nothing.
Gail, what's behind that comment?
Be very careful.
What do you mean? All right, Gail, now you've got to explain. There's something
No,
going on.
you know what? I just tuned in. I have no idea what he's talking about.
Oh, we're talking about voting in person versus mail-in.
Oh, I voted in person,
I did
Yeah.
too.
and it didn't take long, but
This is Texas.
yeah, Yeah, I'm nervous. I guess everyone is feeling this way. Very nervous.
Oh,
Yeah.
tell me about it. I'm gonna need a special therapy on the night of November 3rd. My
Yeah.
son was actually gonna fly down because we were, just to all be together. Whatever happened, but now he's not flying.
Yeah, I mean, we got very disappointed with 16. I was sure that Hillary Clinton was going to win. Sure of it. And then that night, it
Oh, God.
was
It was
a
like a
horrible
punch in the
night.
gut. Yes.
It was a gut punch.
It was a gut punch. No idea.
I mean, it was a bit like mourning. I mean, I was just in disbelief.
And then I kept trying to tell myself it couldn't be that bad. We'll get over it. It is.
I kept saying, I was at a pub here in Carolina with
Oh, you were?
other Democrats.
Uh-huh.
It was supposed to be a celebration.
Mm.
And I said, he's going to destroy this country. I knew about him because I lived in New York.
Mhm.
Everybody knew Donald Trump.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, did you think he was going to use the Justice Department as his personal law firm and stuff like that? I mean, it's catering to get votes is one thing with the awful policies, but things that are blatantly just plain illegal, like just using federal facilities to do personal gain. I mean, it's just. I mean, I couldn't imagine he would even do that.
Oh yeah, I mean, he's worse than you can ever imagine. And
Yeah.
if Biden wins, I really worry about our country between Election Day and January 20th.
Yeah.
I can't even. Who knows what he's going to do?
Yeah.
He's very unbalanced.
Well, maybe it's really, I was thinking about that. Maybe it's just as well that he wastes all his energy trying to challenge it. Hopefully that it doesn't succeed, because then he won't have time to do anything else that's destructive, maybe.
I mean,
Oh,
yeah, so we got another, 10 days?
10 days, 10 days. Tomorrow will be 9 days. I guess it's 9 days today. Tomorrow is Monday to Monday is 8. and
Yeah,
then
you're right.
Yeah, I mean,
no.
Did anybody ever think that this election might be over with? And
I don't know what I'm gonna,
I don't even know what's going to happen.
I don't have a clue. I think the election is part 1, actually.
I had a dream last night that I was trying to move to Canada. I'm not kidding.
How interesting.
Did you make it?
they don't want to take anybody.
Yeah, they wouldn't want us.
That was very hard. I wish I could.
I have a friend whose son was born in Canada and he is, he could go. I said, well, why doesn't he leave? He's married, has 2 young children. And I said to his mother, why is he still staying here? Maybe his wife doesn't want to go, but I mean, if I had the opportunity
Well-
to legally do it, and he's a bartender.
Can I tell you one reason why?
Why?
Because the winters are very cold. And
This kid grew up in Connecticut, Aaron, and he lives in upper New York State now. So
The Upper New York State is.
he lives in Saratoga Springs.
yeah, I know where that is for sure. I
Yeah.
worked in Schuylerville, which is right near Saratoga Springs, on an apple farm for 1 year.
Oh,
But here's the thing. I lived in Montreal in Quebec, 67 to 69. And I tell the story. It was very early September. I lived in an apartment that overlooked like a narrow alleyway between 2 apartment complexes.
mhm.
And there was a blue Fiat that was parked in the alleyway. and the beginning of September, it snowed. And that fiat did not see the light of day until April.
It is not the part of the world where fiats should be driven.
Yeah, but
That's the problem. There shouldn't be a fiat there. You're right, Suzanne.
well, that's true. All of that's true, but I'll never forget that.
Funny.
Well, in Boston, people used to put out like folding chairs or something to save what they thought were their parking spaces, even though they really weren't.
I keep this picture on my desk.
What is in the middle?
This was a major snowstorm. And this was right in front of my house in New Jersey.
Oh my
Yeah.
God. Is that a truck that's covered with a snow, Gail?
No, it's the road.
That's the road. Okay.
And
The road. Oh, okay. I see it now.
Okay.
It was one of those snowstorms where you kept trying to shovel the end of the driveway,
Mhm.
and an hour later, it would be sky high. And it kept snowing and snowing. We must have got that day maybe 3 feet of snow.
Mhm.
And,
I no longer can drive in. I mean, I never liked it, and since I hate driving now anyway, the idea of driving in snow and ice is particularly scary, even though I lived in that kind of environment till I was in my 40s. Marsha, I love your earrings. Those are so pretty.
Where did I get? I think I got them from a museum. Yeah.
You
you
like them
can-
where?
from a museum somewhere.
They're
they're-
really, yeah,
Thank you.
there's a design. I
Thank
just
you.
thought maybe something else.
How about if we wait
But-
one more minute and see if we get any more late comers and then we'll start.
this is
Gail, hold on to that picture. It reminds me of why you don't want to be in that climate anymore.
right. After living here, I don't want to go back to a cold climate.
Yeah,
Especially
So-
this winter, it could be dangerous.
So those of you that came from cold climates, so when we get, let's say 40-degree weather, do you feel like, oh my gosh, it's too cold now?
yes.
So you changed.
I would like
Yeah.
the winter, I'd like it to be like in the 60s during the day, 70. It can go down to 40 at night. That's okay.
Well, what I mean is, has your tolerance for cold changed as you've
Yeah.
been living here in this
I
climate?
understand it. And I did go back there, I don't know how many years ago in the winter. And I could not stand the cold. I just couldn't. It was right through you.
Mhm.
Wouldn't do
Well,
well if
never
we were
is.
in Russia or Poland.
Oh, no,
Oh,
it's even worse.
Well,
The winters are very long.
I
Yeah.
can still tolerate the cold pretty well.
You don't live in the cold.
Jeff,
No,
how long have you been
When I
here?
go back to Ohio, it's okay when it's cold. It's not, it doesn't bother me.
Jeff,
drove
how
in-
long have you lived here?
Huh?
How long have you lived here, Jeff?
Since 75.
So you've been here like a really long time. And hello.
Years.
Yeah.
Wow.
Half a lifetime.
Yes, it is.
It's half a lifetime.
Okay, we're going to start, folks, if that's okay with everybody.
yeah, let's go for it.
So imagine yourself as a young Jew in the 1850s in Poland or Russia, the demographic center of world Jewry. The world is in flux. So many movements, so many ideologies vying for your allegiance. Here are some of the life choices you are confronted with in your home, your shtetl or city, in print, everywhere. Each promises to make the world a better place, or at the very least, to improve your own life. You could choose to reject modernity, to raise the barricades and become what later would be known as ultra-Orthodox. You could heed the call for economic reform and the promise of emancipation and become a secular Jewish socialist or a Bundist. You could remain religiously Jewish while adapting to modernity, becoming a liberal or reformed Jew. You could heed the communist revolutionary call and become a Marxist. You could heed the nationalist call of the country where you live, or the call of personal advancement, and assimilate completely into your host country. You could heed the call of personal advancement or simply flee persecution and immigrate to the United States. You could respond to the Jewish national call and become a Zionist, perhaps even immigrate to Palestine. From that point in Jewish history, it would have been difficult to predict what choice was the most promising. Out of all these forks in the road, there was only two choices that have proven to be long-term solutions for the Jewish people today. Today, 90% of the Jewish people live in Israel or the United States. Now imagine yourself as temporary demographic centers of world Jewry in the year 2020. The world is still in flux. So many movements, so many ideologies vying for your allegiance. Here are some of the life choices you were confronted with in your home, in your city, in the media, everywhere. Is God dead? Is there any truth with a capital T? Or is truth something that hinges on specific cultural or social contexts? Where does the urge to believe come from? Is it an interest? If so, what sort of interest? Is it existential? Belief as defining the meaning of life as far as you're concerned? Is it social? Does belief define your community? Is belief central to the desire to retain your lifestyle? The conception of faith as a lifestyle, for example, is central to the ultra-Orthodox, who compartmentalize and isolate the Jewish way of life to prevent it from becoming adulterated with other modes of existence. Or is all belief self-delusion? There's a problem with the current Orthodox, ultra-Orthodox way of compartmentalizing belief and faith. Too often is accompanied by a delegitimization of other modes of Jewish life. It also presents ultra-Orthodoxy as
Hey, Aaron, excuse me. What are you reading from? Is this Rabbi Shagar's book, or what are you reading from?
Yeah, I
Okay.
know. My notes, we don't have notes on this.
Okay, but it's his book, or what is?
Yes, it's from his book.
Okay, thank you.
So the problem with compartmentalization of belief or faith, it is often accompanied by the delegitimization of other modes of Jewish life, or all other modes of life, period. It presents ultra-Orthodoxy as the only possible truth, of religious truth as rigid and exclusive, formulated without room for change or flexibility. So let's talk a little bit about Rav Shagar's response. He calls it authentic Haredi Judaism. So he maintains a somewhat compartmentalized approach without rejecting or delegitimizing other cultures and without becoming rigid. So how can that be? Because we are not familiar with ultra-Orthodoxy as being flexible in the least, correct? I quote him from his book. Only a religious outlook that succeeds in positioning itself as a hard, unconditional truth while remaining open absurdly to the existence of other truths that contradict it will be able to persist without losing its soul to rigid dogmatism or self-deception. Let me repeat that once again so you get it, okay? Only a religious outlook that succeeds in positioning itself as a hard, unconditional truth while remaining open, absurdly open, to the existence of other truths that contradict it, will be able to persist without losing its soul to rigid dogmatism or self-deception. So how in the world do you do this? And is this even possible? From Rav Shigar's essay, 70 Bullocks and One Sukkah, Rav Shigar offers a way. He talks about what is a Jew's authentic place in this world. Is it an exile or the land of Israel? He asks, is the sukkah, which is meant to be our home for 1 week out of the year, a symbol of the exilic nature of the Jewish people? Is the exile the historic character offer the Jew a way to hold fast to their land, the land of Israel, without being confined to narrow-minded parochialism and staunch patriotism? Let's stop here for 1 second. The problem, Rav Shigar defines himself as Haredi. He also thinks that following the mitzvot, to be Torah true, Torah Judaism, is the most authentic form of Judaism. But he also says that the exile was more than merely historical or a punishment for past sins. He talks about the diaspora's unique character, offering the Jew a way to hold fast to their land without being confined to a narrow-minded parochialism and a staunch patriotism. In other words, he sees a validity in both being a Jew in Israel and in being a Jew in the diaspora. How many times have you heard a Haredi Jew offer that as a possibility, as a possible way to be?
Mm-mm.
He also asked an important question: will the Jewish people's return to politics lead us to treat the other within our midst just as Jews were treated by the nations of the world? Must power corrupt us, asks Rav Shigar. Isn't the message of Torah, as well as the meaning of the Exodus, to love the stranger, for you were strangers in the land of Egypt? What do you think about that, folks?
That seems in opposition to what the Orthodox in Israel have been doing, except at least the most stringent of the Orthodox there.
Yeah, the ultra-Orthodox, right.
The ultra-Orthodox, both in their ideas about people in, non-Jewish
It is
people,
true.
like the Arabs living in the West Bank, and even welcoming other people who have come to Israel that weren't like them.
Yeah, like the Russian Jews.
Like the Russian Jews, like the Ethiopian Jews.
Right.
Yep.
Yeah, so I'm going to stop here just for 1 second. This is why reading Rav Shigar's book. Now, granted, it's translated into English, and my reading Hebrew is not as good as it could be to read a book. So I did read it in translation. This is why Rav Shigar just shook me totally, because we don't expect to hear this from an Israeli. And we sure as heck do not expect to hear this from a religious Israeli. Rav Shigar, someone needs to mute himself. They're flipping through books. Rav Shigar continues. Yet there is more to it. Both nationalism and universalism are necessary. Nationalism is rooted in what is, in an identity unique to the nation and the individual. However, if it is not to turn rigid and callous, it must be tempered by universalism, if only to introduce an element of doubt into it. Universalism is the shared dimension, the common grounds for all of mankind. To put it into religious terms, it is where we encounter the image of God. What do you think about this?
So is it going back to the part that says that all men are created in God's image?
Yes,
That would be my reaction
but
here.
how do you live that?
Yeah, how do you live? You can't live that if you don't accept everyone as being human and somewhat equal to you.
I'm
So-
a bit of a cynic, because we have to keep trying, of course. We have to, all of us, be mindful of others and other, that the kinds of things you're saying, the universal traits we share. But I think over and over again, people seem to show that they love hierarchies. I just recently read a book about the painter Samuel Bach, and he talks about in the displaced persons camp after the war. He was there for some time, some years actually. And would you know that even among those that had just gone through the Holocaust, you'd be surprised, a hierarchy developed, and people were trying to cut corners and get things before somebody else. I mean, it just, I kind of feel like this is hardwired in the
our
way
outlook.
we're built, and it's something that we have to constantly work at to overcome. And the last thing I want to say is, when I did live in Israel many, many, many years ago, just talking with my Israeli relatives, clearly they had, they weren't seeing people, in a universal way. The Moroccans were low tov, and then let's not get started on the blacks. It's this idea of somebody has to have somebody else to look down on seems to be a modus operandi in our nature, I think.
Yeah, good point.
Well, I would agree. It's a very idealistic view.
And we have to work toward it.
A goal. It's a goal to work toward. It's not reality.
Absolutely, Rona. It is, and it's an arduous goal.
I want to kind of change the subject a little bit. I'm looking at the next to the last paragraph on the screen. Jewish ideas frequently do not grip liberal congregations or galvanize them to action, which can only happen when a critical mass of the community has committed itself to regular study of sacred texts and has allowed itself to be shaped by the Jewish tradition defining debates.
Yeah, that's not Rav Shagar. That's Daniel
Yeah.
Gordon.
I know it's Daniel Gordis, but that doesn't make any difference. I find that particular paragraph very upsetting and very arrogant.
We're going to get to that. I threw it up there on purpose. Okay.
And I'm looking at it on purpose, even though I want to hear more of what, more of the other conversation.
Yeah, no, we're going to get to that. Okay.
Well, I apologize, Marcia.
Oh, no, it's no problem.
Okay, so according to Rav Shagar, how do you do this? Okay, so he says, first, you set a boundary based on one's ingrained sense of morality, even if one cannot find absolute universal justification for it. So here he talks about first, and I don't know if I can do this or any of us could do this, but he says first you have to withdraw like the Haredi do, like the ultra-Orthodox do, into your own community in order to learn and clarify your own sense of morality,
Mhm.
okay? Even if you cannot find universal justification for that morality, that's your home. And that's what you have to learn and accept. If you're going to accept anybody else, he says, you need to accept yourself first. He talks about a withdrawal, just like the Haredi withdrawal. Then secondly, acknowledge the respective value that undergirds clashing outlooks, even when they appear to be a truth shaped by the human mind. Okay, so what he's basically, let me finish reading this and we'll go back over sentence by sentence. All truths may be the product of human conditioning, but such conditioning constitutes the medium through which the divine manifests itself throughout the world. Okay, so Judaism and religious truths are not even truths that are shaped by the human mind, not divine truths, he says. All truths may be the product of human conditioning, but such conditioning constitutes the medium through which the divine manifests itself through the world. So how do you justify that? Can you understand that? If that's hard to understand, I'm going to explain it, how Rav Shagar explains it. He goes to the Hasidic texts, talks about the Lord is in everything. There is no place empty of him. If you really understand that, that yields the possibility of a positive, faith-based pluralism. Rav Shagar writes that he is willing to open up to human creativity and sees it as divine inspiration, while at the same time being aware that creativity has many vectors, some of them contradictory. One's encounters with various believers and non-believers can strengthen one's own beliefs, because contending with various faiths allows one to choose one's faith anew by forming a face-to-face bond instead of a back-to-back relationship. We come to see such faith encounters as our home and self-evident rather than as something absolute, an ideology, or an idol. I do not see many religious people being able to do that. But I do see the fact that there's somebody out there who's deeply religious, deeply orthodox, was able to do that, and who founded 3 institutes of Torah study in Israel that has attracted a following in Israel. he talks about the doubting of faith's universal absoluteness does generate boundaries. But this awareness can make one more sensitive, ethical, and humble. Now, I put Daniel Gordis's paragraph in here because that's how many religious Jews, Orthodox religious Jews, see orthodoxy. They see it as a praxis, as a doxy. Daniel Gordis writes, Jewish ideas frequently do not grip liberal congregations or galvanize them to action, which can only happen when a critical mass of the community has committed itself to the regular study of sacred texts and has allowed itself to be shaped by the Jewish tradition's defining debates. Rav Shigar says something completely 180 degrees to that, doesn't he? And it is possible to engage the other, to recognize the other, even to the point of saying, and I quote him, "The Muslim will remain Muslim and adhere to his faith. But if he too will adopt the reflexive point of view characteristic of the West, he will see me as a Jew while I will see him as a Muslim and recognize his beliefs. Together, perhaps we will be able to generate human solidarity. This will come to pass when, on the one hand, enlightened Westerners stop trying to foist their values on all other cultures, and on the other hand, fundamentalist Muslims cease violent attempts to impose their own beliefs on the world." So I have a couple of questions for everybody. Is this pie in the sky? Is this impossible for you to even conceive happening? And secondly, do you think it's possible who could come to this? Jews are a minority culture.
Well, the concept of being a minority culture, recently, I think we've seen that may not be accepted by others. They see the Jews as being a majority because we may be in their faces. In terms of political and other discourse, that is becoming a problem.
Wait, was that a question, Suzanne?
That was more a reflection.
Okay.
Aaron, you broke up. We probably heard
Yeah, we barely
every
heard
fourth
you.
word, and we got something kind of strange hearing every fourth word.
Oh, I'm
So
sorry.
I don't
may
know.
have done
It's not your
something that you
fault.
didn't- Yeah, I may have answered something that you didn't intend to, for which I apologize for that, but you're
Okay,
hard
Okay,
to
so
hear.
hang on. Let me reread.
It's
this.
the very last minute, your questions, we did not hear totally.
Okay. So is it, to me, reading Rav Shigar, the immediate question that I had was, is his viewpoint impossible for a Jew to come to in the United States as a member of minority culture? Can one only come to Rav Shigar's conclusion as a member of being an Israeli, as a member of the majority culture in Israel?
I'll rephrase what I said. I think perhaps you have to be member of a majority even though some perceive Jews as being the majority, to follow through what he's asking.
Wait a minute, explain that.
Yeah. I don't get it.
Well, I think it's very difficult for a lot of Jews to, I don't want to use the word impose because that has happened, but to express their religious and other viewpoints in the minority environment. You have to explain yourself a little bit more than you might like to. And then, as I said earlier, in some circles, Jews are considered not a minority, but the majority, and are not exactly looked upon as someone to listen to.
Mhm.
In other words, you're between a rock and a hard place, or the devil if you do, or the devil you don't, or any one of those kind of sayings.
Have you experienced this, Suzanne?
I was trying to think back, and I think I have in a minimal way. I mean, when I was in college, I was out of organized Judaism for many, many, many years. When I was in college, I went to a school that had a large number of Jewish students, Case Western Reserve in Cleveland. But I hang around with a group that I think I was the only Jew in the group. And there were times when something would come up in the news or something that I didn't feel with my friends I could bring up because it might be misunderstood. Or a couple of times when friends, forgetting I was Jewish, made comments that were very anti-Jewish. Not that the people were necessarily, but occasionally there would be comments that they may not realize.
Mhm.
And it was difficult for me to say anything.
Rav, let me go back to one of the things that Rav Shigar says. He goes back to the Chabad, it is Chabad Hasidism. The Lord is in everything. There is no place empty of him. That yields the possibility of a positive, faith-based pluralism.
Well, I think this is a lot of, I would love to say that this can happen. I don't think it's going to happen in our lifetime. It's like it's what we all hope for in some way, that even within our own religion, we can get along with people from other religions and understand them, and that we're not constantly at war with each other in some way. But history has not, unfortunately, substantiated that very well. I mean, there's periods when we get along better with each other, but it's just like Marcia was saying, I don't know, is it in our, are we capable of this, or is this just something that we all hope for, or many of us hope for?
I mean, they say, we're born with an evil inclination. I mean, I was talking about this with somebody yesterday. There's a little design flaw if you're thinking biblical, in the creation of humans. Aaron, I'm having a little trouble with the definition of faith-based also. So I'm not really sure what we mean. There are Jews that don't necessarily believe in God, but are strongly committed to Judaism. There are people that believe in human values and the idea of, universalism among humans. I'm not quite getting about what we're after with the faith-based part.
That's where Rav Shigar breaks down a little bit for me. Because in order to achieve this position, he basically says you have to be a Torah observant Jew. That's where this whole argument kind of comes up against the rocks for me.
Well, you
And
can
that
be
was
an
what I found difficult.
Sorry.
It says, doesn't it say, I don't have a script in front of me, but it seems like it said you have to study Torah. Doesn't
Yeah.
necessarily mean you have to be Torah observant.
Yeah.
Aren't those two different things, or they can be two different things?
Well, he sees it as one thing.
Yeah, because I was wondering about that. I mean, just because you study Torah, is that going to make you achieve these things? Doesn't make any sense to me. So maybe he's implying that if you study it, you will also be Torah observant.
Yes.
I mean, and everything is a spectrum. So you can be ultra Torah observant, whatever, and observe everything. I think of Al and myself as we're on this path and we're trying, but we're certainly, we got a long way to go on that end. But I will say that the study that we do, yeah, I mean, it is mindful with the idea of how can it impact how I can make the world a better place and how I interact with others.
Yeah.
But I don't know that somebody ultra Orthodox in any way would classify us as Torah observant Jews, not by any stretch
Or
of the imagination.
studying either.
Yeah, absolutely.
That was something that appealed when when I learned about the Reconstructionist movement, that that whatever your group's decisions were, they weren't rabbi based. They didn't come from the rabbi, but they came not just, oh yeah, let's do this and let's not do that. We were supposed to study and understand first, and then think about it and understand why it's being suggested to keep kosher or do this, and then make your decisions.
Yes.
At least understand where
it came
from.
Yes.
And that really appealed to me, that it's not just let's throw it out, the baby with the bathwater, and observe what we want to observe and not observe the rest, but try to understand something.
Yeah.
And I know that's not true of every congregation. Has people, even Reconstructionists congregations who just do whatever they want and don't understand. But I think the goal was there, to act from learning and Torah based.
But also, I think that this critical mass community getting together, and he's saying that if you study regularly and you define and your debate, you have a mass amount of opinions, you have a broader understanding, and this is where he's saying you come together as a community, you talk, you debate, and that is the beauty and the gift of our Jewish people that carry us forward. The ability to think, the ability to debate, the ability to speak in a community environment. And there is our salvation. And this is what will keep us going forward.
I agree with you wholeheartedly. That is, I don't know if it's unique to Jews, but I can tell you from being working in a Catholic school for 40 years, it didn't even approach hearing a sermon.
A possibility among most Catholics.
Compare a sermon with that I heard many of them from priests versus a sermon from a rabbi. It would be, I don't know that I heard one that debated, that criticized, that I agree. I think it's that Hannah that spoke.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree with you completely. I think that's something we should be very proud of. And I do agree. I think that is something, a characteristic of being a Jew that is our strength. And a place to move forward.
That's something my daughter's friend, who has been learning from her, but also from reading a lot, she's like finds Judaism very appealing because of that.
Yeah.
And my daughter said one of these days her friend's mother's going to kill her because her friend's going to convert. And she said, does your mother know that if you convert that it means you don't accept Jesus? And I'm like, because she, it just, but it's one of the things that appealed to her friend was that you can question.
Yeah.
And I think this puts the whole, what everybody's been saying, Marcia, Rona, kind of makes me realize that Gordis's paragraph, which at first reading I found like very, as I said, arrogant and offensive. Maybe it isn't. You have to dig under the surface. And I think that's a characteristic of all kinds of Jewish study. You have to dig under the surface.
Yeah, I think that the key as far as Rab Shigar is concerned is first you have to withdraw and learn. Now, again, like I said, for him, he's a Torah observant Jew. So it's learning, Torah and Talmud. But until you get to that point where you're knowledgeable and you know who you are and you're aware of that, you can't fully participate in that exchange with others. Not authentically, anyway.
You don't always need to know who or what you are. That is what the beauty of Judaism is. That's why you come together and you study and you become enlightened. You discover that what you thought was saying the verbiage and what was in that paragraph and was talking to you, you discover as you listen to others that there's a deeper meaning, there's a different meaning, and there's a new way of looking at things. And so your scope changes. That's why we enjoy the freedom of debate, arguing, discussing. I mean, who can walk up and say to a rabbi or, you spoke well, but, and then okay, this is us, our Jewish heritage. That's why we're so difficult at times. Everybody is a chief, everybody has an opinion, and other religions aren't quite like that.
But Hannah, that takes effort. That's the catch, is that I think most Jews are ossified in the period when, they were young and they remember getting their bar bat mitzvah and they were forced to go to Hebrew school and let me out of here, and they don't get back to it, and they've got this very childish view of Judaism. But to make it meaningful in one's life, getting into that debate takes a lot of effort, and a lot of people aren't willing to do it.
The other part is that he's saying that we have to withdraw. And that is where most of us don't agree, probably. That, we have to live within this community. Now, we do somewhat, as we all, especially those of us active, we feel a sense of community, but that's not the same as living in an Orthodox community.
Is that what he means by withdraw? Actually, physically going into is that what he meant, Aaron? Do you think? Or does it mean just taking?
Actually, I do think so.
Okay.
Yeah.
Aaron, how was he received? How was this book
Yeshiva
received in this ultra-Orthodox Haredi community?
Yeah. We don't think anything of withdrawing for 4 years of college. What
That's
about
not exactly withdrawing.
That's a different definition of
I don't think
withdrawing
that's
here and
withdrawing.
like going completely away.
I think if what he's saying is that, they really, in some of these communities, they really do withdraw their lives from other parts of the secular culture. They really are not part of it.
Yeah.
This is not, they may have a few of them may have cell phones because they have to, but they don't, they don't watch TV, they don't go to the movies, they don't really, their life is centered around Torah.
Yeah. And I think that he would advocate that. That's my impression from close reading of the book. Yes. Okay. Well, how many have ever heard of this guy before this last 2 weeks?
Never heard of him.
We do not study, we do not read, we do not make ourselves open to a lot of the current religious thinking that's coming, especially coming out of Israel. A lot of it's just being translated into English for the first time. But to me, it's very, very, very exciting, some of the stuff that's coming out and is available now. And I really wish that we could do this more, more consciously. I'd like to see that. And maybe for the book club, the Inspired Book Club at Brit Shalom. As an example, we might want to read this book. Maybe not.
You can advocate.
Really.
I appreciate your introducing us to these
Yes,
ideas
absolutely.
that we wouldn't have known before.
Well, again, it really, I read this book once through and then gone back and read it carefully a second time. And as some people know, I usually just read first and last chapters of books. Unless, unless there's something, at least I'm either reviewing it closely or there's something that's very, very appealing about this book. But about this book in particular is very appealing.
Erin,
Yeah.
are there going to be any other classes like this that you're aware of? Sunday afternoon?
Not that I'm aware of it at this point. I think we're all right now on the cusp of waiting to see what the heck we're going to be doing. Are we going back? Are we going to continue on
I'm
Zoom?
not going back.
What are we going to be doing?
We're going to have to continue on Zoom through the winter at the minimum.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
got-
don't see us going back in person. I wish I could say differently, but I mean, here I was, we barely opened our studio on a Saturday, like last couple of months, and I went for an hour and a half or so. And cases are going back up again. We may be putting a note on our door again. Sorry,
Yeah.
no matter whatever anybody else does, Debbie and I won't be there, it's, if it continues that way, it's just, I hate to say that. I mean, I really do, until we get rapid tests, until we know right away if somebody's
Yeah.
got a
But it could be a
reliable.
long, a
Yeah.
long, dark winter, as somebody else said.
Yeah.
And
Well-
and a vaccine is effective. I mean, all the news now says that for the third quarter of next year. None of us expected this more than a couple of months. But we
Yeah.
will have to continue meeting like this to keep up the connection.
Well, look, I want to thank Barbara Lozier for shepherding us through.
Yeah,
through these
Yes, thank you,
times.
Barbara.
Thank you. She was here earlier, wasn't she?
yeah, she was.
Oh, she left.
Thank you all for coming. Be well.
Thank you, Aaron.
Thank you, Aaron.
Aaron.
Thank you.
Oh, here's Barbara.
Thank you, Barbara.
Thank you.
My pleasure.
See everyone soon. Erin,
I hope
take
so.
care.
Okay.
See you at
All
show.
right.
By the way, Barbara, I met Heather Thomas at the from the preschool teaching over at Champions,
Uh-huh.
Chancellors, I mean. So
Chancellors, right.
I'll give you a hello from her.
Please do.
I knew you were working at Brit Shalom now.
Yep,
So
yep. All right, everybody take care.
bye. Hey,
Bye-bye.
Jeff, good to see you.
You
You
see
too.
her, bye-bye.
Hannah too. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Oh, I hit leave.